Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Let's Address This with Qasim Rashid. And as folks trickle into the conversation, I I'm privileged for this conversation today with Zahid Chaudhry and his better half Melissa Chaudhry about a really important conversation. So much of the narrative around these ICE fascists coming after Americans is revolving correctly around the denial of due process of law. And I want to be clear that this due process isn't just being denied to undocumented people. It's being denied to immigrants, documented immigrants, citizens, and including veterans who served in our armed forces. That's why I'm privileged to have Zahid Chaudhry, a veteran of the United States Army, and his better half, Melissa, join us today because their story is one that needs to be told. In a minute, I'm going to include the GoFundMe in the chat. But this is a story of a military family who did everything they were supposed to do, followed every rule book, followed every law, did everything by the book, and were still snatched up by ICE and not content with trying to destroy their lives. They continue to take them to court. And right now we're waiting for the court to rule on the future, on their future in this country. So Zahid, Melissa, it's a privilege and pleasure to have you here. I wish we were meeting under better circumstances, but I'm grateful to have this chance to speak with you and have you share your story with the masses.
Thank you very much, Brother Qasim. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Zahid, let's just start with you and just kind of talk a little bit, just share a little bit about your journey and your time in the armed forces serving in the military.
Sure. I joined before 9/11, and I joined because uh, they said there was a need and they couldn't fulfill that need in the army. And they couldn't find in our area and region, they couldn't find people who could score higher on OSWAB and then fill out some important needed positions. So that's why I joined. And before I joined Army, I was already a volunteer firefighter, unpaid volunteer EMT, emergency medical technician, paramedic in the city fire department. And I did that for thousands of hours because I loved giving back to community. Because where we live, our community has to benefit. People around us, city, county, state has to benefit. And so that was the spirit that I joined.
He trained as a mental health specialist, which he didn't understand some agencies thought was a precursor to counterintelligence. So after 9/11, he was approached and requested to become a confidential informant and start and betray his community and give names for people who would be then framed and targeted as terrorists. And he understood this to be an unconstitutional request, even though it's coming from agencies tasked with upholding the Constitution. And so he stood firm. He said, I will not do that. I'm going to stand by my oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. This was 25 years ago. And he was told at the time that his citizenship would not be forthcoming and they would make his life hell. And they have done their best to do that for the last 25 years. He still is not a citizen. He should have been protected from detention this past year. And instead, they used a citizenship appointment as a ruse to unlawfully abduct and detain him for 124 days.
And that's the part that really kind of shocks the conscience, notwithstanding the retribution and the retaliation that you face, Zahid, for sticking to your conscience and refusing to capitulate. The fact that you were at your citizenship interview when they snatched you. Can you talk a little bit about that situation?
Sure. Maybe Melissa can give you the background behind it. So that as soon as in August, what date?
It was August 5th when the Ninth Circuit, which has the final jurisdiction over his naturalization, gave an order saying briefing is complete and the matter is referred to the merits panel. That they only do that if they take it seriously enough to think there's the merits real judicial evaluation. That same day, August 5th, we started getting notifications from USCIS saying, hey, come in for this appointment. He continued applying for citizenship. They'd been ignoring it for years. Suddenly, within hours, we get all these name notifications, all identical except for the receipt number. Sure enough, August 21st, 8 a.m., he shows up like he's supposed to for the citizenship appointment. And within moments of its conclusion, he was abducted in the hallway by ICE. After I wheeled him back for that appointment, I didn't see him again except behind glass for 4 months.
So it's mortifying. I mean, I'm just trying to visualize this. And this is the point that I keep making when people are saying that, well, ICE is just enforcing the laws. No, they're not.
No, they're not.
Actually deliberately going out of their way to demonize and to terrorize Black and brown people. And I just, I want to see the MAGA person make the argument that an Army veteran who put his life on the line, who now suffers a debilitating disability as a result of his service, that somehow this is a danger or a threat to our democracy or to our republic.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure we talk about this because as a disabled veteran, you really have made just short of the ultimate sacrifice of giving your life, but you've also, given up the best years of your life serving this country.
Right.
If you feel comfortable, please talk about your disability and your service in the
Totally.
military that caused it.
Totally. So going back to the another MAGA person who says that they're after the worst of the worst. So first thing, my family came here in 1980s as a scientists and researchers. 1980s. So let that sink in. Then I start coming here in 1990s to spend time with my uncle, who's a scientist, American scientist and professor, even though several countries claim him that no, he was our scientist, he was our brain. But anyway, so I will spend the summers with him because we both are nature lovers and we love going on long hikes. He has just passed away. So that's what we did. So I was coming for summer for 3 months, coming winter for a month for skiing and all that. But what happened? Yes.
Importantly, always visa compliant and fully documented.
So that is the point I was coming to come to a mega person. I start coming in 1990s and lived here full time since 2000. But I have never broken any U.S. law ever. I don't even have a parking ticket. I have always came here legally, never broken any U.S. law ever, and qualified for expedited military naturalization, 25 years ago, 24 years ago.
And that qualification was before his injuries. His injuries occurred in 2004 and cut his Army career short. Otherwise, he loved it. He would have stayed in.
I loved the Army. I absolutely. And before I know two armies, and it's the same army. I know two countries. It's the same country. United States of America, and the Army is United States Army, which I loved and I liked it before 9/11. It was about merit. You excel in so many courses and you're so good, you get promoted and all that. After 9/11, there was some sort of really sinister and arbitrary, capricious, um, what is that, fear about Muslims. And suddenly,
Yeah.
I see patterns in different divisions, different units on great soldiers, but because they were Muslims or black and brown, and the carriers were not progressing.
Yeah.
Stopping. But I would have served 20 plus years.
Yeah.
I would have retired otherwise. I mean, I had head injuries and broken back injuries, and so that made things worse, and they retired me out. But yes.
The traumatic brain injury and wheelchair he uses to this day. Those affect him to this day.
Yeah.
And I just, again, one, thank you for your service to this country, despite the military refusing and denying you the basic dignity that you deserve. But again, I just want to emphasize this for those watching. This was a person who did everything by the book. By the book. I mean, down to the smallest, dotted I's and crossed T's. And so now you get to your citizenship hearing, finally. And what happens at the citizenship hearing?
They first thing that they would not allow me to have a personal care attendant. I have a government paperwork from Veterans Administration, from United States government, that I need. I'm a wheelchair bound. I need a personal care attendant. I have traumatic brain injuries, so that makes it worse. So I need, and I will show them not one, two, three different paperwork from United States government. Then I have an authorized personal care attendant, or I need a personal care attendant. And they would not allow me. The person would not notify, would let us know of his name. The assistant director, that acting director, was Jonathan Boots of Seattle, USCIS. But anyway, they take me in, and the person who is trying, it's a show. It was a ruse, okay. And we can't say the interview concluded. It didn't conclude. I was right there when these 6 people from ICE came and said, are you Muhammad Zahid Chaudhry? I said, yes. And then they handcuffed me and took me downstairs in the basement. And we were there for a very long time. They were loading and unloading their guns and doing all sorts of dramas. And my wife and my father-in-law was a former retired U.S. Navy commander, the head of the naval hospital, and my mother-in-law and my kids and about 40 other supporters and friends are waiting outside, and they're telling them that he will come out. And then they took me to the Tacoma Detention Center, and it's just I am in total disbelief that why I have done nothing wrong. I have always come here legally, always, for 30 years.
So while they've illegally detained you, they're lying to your family that
Yes,
everything is
absolutely.
fine to make
Yes.
sure that they could delay their response as much as possible. So, Melissa, at what point did you realize that something is seriously wrong?
It was about an hour in. They had
Okay.
told me when I wheeled him back behind that alarmed door, there's no witnesses behind that door. It's all their own people in that wing of the building. I asked, what guarantee do I have that you'll bring my husband back to me? And Director Weeks said, that'll depend how the interview goes. That's not supposed to be the answer.
Right.
So we waited about an hour, then we started feeling antsy and we're asking to
Yeah.
get him some water. He needs a break. And it was another full hour before they took me back. And 3 men told me to my face that I would be hearing from my husband soon. He'd been taken into custody at the end of the interview. I said, on what grounds? They wouldn't tell me. They said, oh, security reasons. I said, bullshit. I'm his wife. I have a right to know. And they still refused to my face to tell me why. It took the congressman's office to try to get a straight answer out of him, the same congressman I ran against last year. So it was, they tore the soul out of my family. And I told them so. And that began a 4-month fight to get him home. We had to fight all the way up to federal court under a habeas saying this was not lawful from the beginning. The person who interviewed him refused to identify himself, refused even to put his name on the formal, official form that they give you from USCIS at the end of the interview. It was unlawful from the get-go, and they knew it.
Yeah. And Zayed, what was the actual claim? And by the way, I just want to make a comment. Somebody made a comment. Carol made a comment that I want to just acknowledge that she says that I appreciate the point being made about not having a criminal record, but we need to stop focusing on criminality versus lack of criminal record. This is not about criminality and crime. It's about anti-immigrant rhetoric. And Carol is right. However, I think it is important that Zahid makes clear because the entire claim of the Trump regime is that, well, we're just going after criminals. And by no means are we saying that someone who's guilty of a crime is deserving of being treated this way. Every person has guaranteed due process of law. I think it's important to also acknowledge that this is another piece of evidence that it was not about criminals at any stretch of the imagination. It was about anyone European white, and that's important to acknowledge here. In that it's not a question of what excuse they're using from criminality. It's a question of they had no excuse. It is flat out racism. And so back to the question then, Zahid, what excuse or what reason did they give you as to why they were detaining you?
And good. They did not give me any reason. They won't tell me anything, and they will always postpone. You will find out. Just go to court, find out, get an attorney, and so they did not give me. But later on, after 4 months, when eventually went to the U.S. District Court, we find out they're saying it on faulty 2008 administrative thing. They're basing it on, but from 2008 all the way 2018, the Seattle Immigration Court heard that case and said and reaffirmed that I have been a legal permanent resident since March, April 2001. And any excuses they were throwing at me, the judge who actually heard that for 11 years, the trial court, the only trial court in this matter, gave me waivers for that. So, but they're saying, oh, we are basing it on that, which before it was litigated. I mean, it was just, and one thing that removal order was faulty is based on false premises, and those falsities had been proven in court over 11 years. Then also I have a stay of removal from Ninth Circuit Court. So I had triple protections, and I'm still taken in. Why? Because I was effective. Why?
And this is the point that the courts are even ruling on this, and still ICE is ignoring them. And this goes back to the May 12th memo of last year, where ICE said that they no longer need judicial warrants to take people's rights away. That should scare every person. I don't care if you're left leaning or right leaning. If you are a person in this country and the government is saying that we don't need a judicial warrant to come after you, that's a problem. And if you see a veteran being targeted this way and that doesn't bother you, then stop with the lie that you care about veterans or supporting our troops or supporting our due process. You simply care about protecting your racist endeavors. This has nothing to do with justice or due process. So now we're at a point where, fortunately, you're back out. In no small part due to Melissa working tirelessly to get you out. Everyone should have a life partner that's that supportive. But you're still waiting for the Ninth Circuit to rule. What are they ruling on, and what kind of timeline are you expecting at this point?
We don't have a timeline. They will either reaffirm, which the Seattle Immigration Court have done, that he has been legal permanent resident and he has been eligible for expedited military naturalization, which can happen in 1 hour, 1 day. for 23, 24 years. And that's what they're going to rule on. Or they say, we're not going to do it. Yeah.
There's two small points I'd like to make. One, we have folks here who weren't here at the beginning, so let me just say again briefly that when Zahed was a soldier back just shortly after 9/11, he was approached by the FBI and other agencies who wanted him to become an informant and wanted him to just give them a name for someone they could spin up as a terrorist so they could get extra promotions, so they could justify inflated budgets. He refused. He stood firm against all the bribes, all the threats, all the everything, and said, no, I will not betray an innocent person. I'm a Muslim. I won't do that. And no, I'm going to uphold the Constitution of the United States and protect innocent Americans. And he was told at the time he would be targeted. The full saga is in the book that just came out last week, Service and Sacrifice, One American Soldier's Fight to Defend the U.S. Constitution. That's available on Amazon and Metal Label. I just want to make sure that folks can know about that.
Qasim, just to let you know, the U.S. Constitution, it is the glue which holds us together.
That's right.
It is what we all agreed on. If the Constitution and constitutional due process is not followed, it is not a civilization. It's not a country. It's not a community. It is the Constitution which gives us the rights which cannot be taken away by any group, by any seasonal change or whatever. So I could not make more Afia Siddiquis. I refuse to make more Afia Siddiquis. I refuse to make innocent Americans as terrorists. And I cannot do that in good consciousness. And this is what my crime is, that I have refused to make innocent Americans as terrorists. And I didn't work for that. And this is, it is continuing.
And really, folks need to understand that what Zahed was asked to do is a strategy by U.S. intelligence agencies that they have deployed in the post-World War II era extensively against Black and brown communities. COINTELPRO under Hoover was designed, counterintelligence program was designed to infiltrate Black and brown communities and break them up, to prevent the Black Panthers from forming, to break up Dr. King's organizations, to break up the Nation of Islam, to break up any Black or brown liberation organization. This was the tactic to get an informant in there, get them information. This is how Fred Hampton was killed. This is how the FBI killed Malcolm X. This is how they enabled the killing of Dr. King. This is a proven strategy. And far from capitulating to that violence, Zahed should be commended as a hero for standing up to it. And now he's suffering deepest consequences. I've shared the GoFundMe that they are using to raise legal fees because lawyers are not cheap in this space, not in any space, especially not in this space. And so if in your capacity to throw a few bucks, please do so. And we're grateful to have this opportunity to chat with you. In addition to sharing the GoFundMe, how else can folks support the work that you guys are doing?
I am putting forward, so we've got the book out. That's the first thing I would ask, is that people read the book and share it. It's not just about our story. It's about what it takes to uphold the constitutional republic and the integrity of the American dream, as the institutions that are supposed to uphold it have been hollowed out from the inside and now are actively being not just crumbled before our eyes, but actively weaponized against the American people. Upholding the Constitution, due process, equality, liberty, and justice for all is now falling down to every individual to uphold and to strengthen. Thank you very much for that. So go ahead, please.
No, I keep going. I was people are asking in the comments about the book, and so I'm like, here's the book, Service and Sacrifice, and it's a great read. And so if you want to get it, it's available online on Amazon, all that good stuff. But it's called Service and Sacrifice, and I think Melissa, who is a collaborator on this Instagram Substack Live, has a phenomenal Substack. You can also go to her Substack, support her, subscribe to her as well, and be involved there as well. We're gonna wrap up, but I wanted to again thank you guys for not just being here, but far more importantly, for refusing to bend and break to this immense pressure. I can't even fathom what your family is going through, and for you to still continue to persist. It's clear that you're fighting not just for yourselves, but to make sure that you set a precedent so that this doesn't happen to anyone else. Before we go, a final word. I'll leave it to you to close us out.
Exactly. And to me, that is the most important thing, that we are each other's shield and we cannot undermine our constitution. Otherwise, the republic doesn't exist. And the constitutional republic only exists if, not the 51% of the people can take away the rights of the 49%, but even the 99% of the people cannot take away the rights of the 1% of the minority. And that is why constitution is important. Due process is important to me. And this is why I wanted to share this.
Beautifully said. And my apologies for suggesting Amazon. Do not buy from Amazon. Buy it from the private, small, owned bookstores. That's where you want to pick it up. Zahid Chaudhry, Melissa Chaudhry, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll continue to elevate your story. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Let's Address This with Qasim Rashid. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so we can continue to create this content. Make sure you support Melissa and Zahid in this incredible journey that they're on, that hopefully will end in a moral and legal victory. Stay safe out there. God bless you guys. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Also, free Palestine.
Thank you.
And free Palestine.
Thank you.